Hey Madison, it's executive producer Haley Sperling here. At the end of today's episode, I've got a sponsored interview with the CEO of Journey Mental Health Center. Sarah Valencia is going to talk to me about the incredible events they have lined up for Mental Health Awareness Month this May, and how every ticket and donation goes directly towards supporting mental health services right here in our Madison community. This conversation is brought to you by Journey Mental Health Center, so stick around, you're going to want to hear this one.
This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about.
It's not football, it's not baseball, but ultimate Frisbee that is Madison's favorite pastime. The semi-professional, semi-serious sport has a cult following in our town, and today we're going to find out why. I'm semi-executive producer Haley Sperling in for your host Bianca Martin, and with me today to break it all down is Pete Schramm, the executive director of the Madison Ultimate Frisbee Association, aka MUFA. Pete, welcome to CityCast Madison.
Hey, thanks for having me, Haley.
I am so excited to have this conversation with you, Pete. And for those who are unfamiliar with the Frisbee community in Madison, can you help set the scene for us? Like, how big is Ultimate here in Madison?
We half jokingly call ourselves the capital city of Ultimate because it is a huge, huge thing in Madison. MUFA's been around since 1993 when it was founded. And we have 2,500 people who play in our summer league, which is a healthy percentage of 1% of the population. We like to use that stat to share with people. And it's become an ubiquitous sport. It's one of the most popular rec sports in Dane County. People have played it from a generational standpoint. It's really become, across the 21st century, baked into the sports culture here.
Yeah, and it's for men, for women, for everyone in between, right?
Absolutely. One of the great parts about Ultimate is it tends to be a very inclusive, very welcoming community where anyone of any size, shape, whatever can find their home on a sports field with us.
That's awesome. And Ultimate Frisbee in itself is a relatively new sport. Its creation is credited to three men from Maplewood, New Jersey back in 1968. You mentioned that MUFA itself was founded here in Madison in 1993. Was there a specific point in time when the sport really sort of caught fire here? I know you've been playing here for a long time. So how have you seen that take off?
It definitely has blown up over the last 25 years. It existed in spurts. You can find references to University of Wisconsin clubs and whatnot going back into the early 1980s. But it was in 1993, MUFA was specifically founded, and it was founded to bring the World Championships here, to bring a World's event here. And Brad Wendt and other people who were the kind of originators of MUFA back in the day really imagined us being a host city for an Olympic style event. And they brought Worlds here and they made an Olympic Village out of the Lakeshore dorms, and the games are at University Bay Fields. The final was at Warner Stadium. There's really that kind of interest in the sport at a very large sense that led to the founding of MUFA. And as the 21st century went along, we became a very accessible recreational sport. Frisbee in itself has a very low, shallow curve to get into the sport compared to other sports you may want to try recreationally. If you can run around and a little bit catch and a little bit throw, you can be a functional player at the recreational level in a way that I don't think is necessarily true in other sports. So as you saw in the 2010s, 2014s, we kept growing and growing. People kept joining. We were actually bigger before COVID than we are now. I think, like most things, we haven't entirely recovered from a recreational standpoint from that. But I think it's grown just because it's become very accessible. In Madison, I think it's grown because you see it a lot, where we're in every other park you see. Our jerseys are an ubiquitous part of just the landscape. I've joked you can't bike around Lake Monona without seeing a MUFA jersey. I'm not sure it's possible.
I would have to agree with that. I mean, that's kind of, my next question too, is like, how did this sport manage to get such a chokehold on like the Madison community specifically? Because like you mentioned, this is a sport played across the world. I'm going to out myself here. The first time I actually went to a Frisbee game was a tournament in the Netherlands. And so seeing all these teams from across the world come together to play this sport that I knew nothing about is crazy. And then to see that it is just happening everywhere all the time in Madison is kind of wild.
Well, and I think I would guess that might have been Windmill Windup. Was that
It was Windmill.
That's actually a really good example for one of the reasons I think Ultimate, once it got a foundation, continued to build, because Windmill, like a lot of the national and international tournaments, is as much built around community as it is around the sport. Yes, we're playing games here, and there are scores, and eventually there will be a champion. But there's the whole sub part where Ultimate has always really had a community aspect baked into it. And I think that has been very attractive to a certain group of people, myself included. This is one of the reasons I got into Ultimate, was because it provides a competitive element. It provides that athletic element without necessarily veering into the extremely competitive places other sports can go. And there's always been this level of sportsmanship. In Ultimate, it's codified as spirit of the game, but really a respect for your opponents and a respect for the fact that we're here for a shared experience. We're here to have fun. We're here to enjoy ourselves. And it doesn't have to be fisticuffs with the other team. And I think the ability to build that community, and how you've watched over the years in Ultimate where these teams have stayed together. My team has been together for Summer League for almost 20 years now. And it has gone well beyond the Frisbee field at this point, where we are each other's social circles. We have gone to each other's weddings. As a personal example, I officiated a wedding where I was the captain of the two people and they had met on my team.
Oh my God.
that's a possibly extreme example, but that's not an uncommon example. It's one of the ways where Ultimate really has that other element, I think. And it's an element that is very, very attractive. The ability to have, without sacrificing the athletic experience, to have a really positive community experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I know people that, have, like you mentioned, been married on the same Ultimate team. I mean, if you talk about how much of the Madison population plays Ultimate, how much of that population has found a significant other, or, how many MUFA babies are out there, right? Are we keeping score?
It would be a lot. I mean, full disclosure, I met my wife on my 2014 Fall League team. Like, that was where we first got introduced to one another. We have teams in Summer League where you have people playing with their kids, because you can start playing Summer League when you're 14 years old. And you have people who started playing when I started playing. They've got middle schoolers and high schoolers now. And when you look at our registration, you'll see the same last name a bunch of times, and you will see multiple generations within that name. And that has also helped. It can be a family sport. We have a lot of teams where the players are playing and moms and dads are swapping places because they got to watch the kid on the sideline. And
oh my God.
It's something you see a lot out there. And I think it's just another sign of how good the community is.
It's clearly, very community driven, and there's so many social aspects to Ultimate in Madison. And, you've alluded to that here, is that it is a huge driver of connections in our community. And with that too, there are a few pieces of the Madison Ultimate scene that have some people wondering, myself included, is this sport actually maybe kind of a cult in our city?
I can't say no, but in the same way, there's always going to be that element where, first, anything that isn't in that mainstream, the people who are super into it are going to feel a little bit like another. And I think that's sports, that's other things. But also, Ultimate players very, very can become Ultimate players, like full blown, this is my identity. We laugh. There's nobody who loves their outfits more than Ultimate players. Ultimate players love their jerseys. The teams, particularly at the club level, put incredible care into designing their jersey every year, and they are often spectacular looking. I think there is an element of, because the community tends to develop relationships and friendships, it starts to feel a little insular, which I would hope that people would realize that it's very accessible, and this is something you can be a part of, not in the dear leader way that another cult might be, but there is the element of, I think communities will tend to band together, particularly in times like this sometimes, and Ultimate's no different than that. It is very much, people who are Ultimate players become Ultimate players. It becomes a pretty heavy part of your identity, and as you've been to tournaments, as you get more and more into it, there are levels of the recreational player to the tournament player to the travel player. I took a team out to Seattle every 4th of July weekend for 12 years to play in a tournament called Potlatch. And people were like, why do you, first weekend in July, put on same color jerseys and go to a field in Seattle for 3 days? And
right.
It sometimes is tough to explain, but it is because that community is so strong. It is just a ton of fun to be a part of.
I do want to circle back to the outfits because I mean, people who listen to the show, they know me. They know that I love a good outfit. I'm not necessarily a sporty gal, but I'm always here for the uniforms. And, you can always tell an Ultimate player because, like you said, they're wearing Ultimate gear. Is that like just such a big signaler as being part of that identity? Like, what is it about that just kind of keeps people coming back to it?
I think there's an advantage. This is one of those times there's an advantage of not being one of the institutionalized sports because you don't have jerseys look like this and these are your requirements. There are, of course, requirements when you get at the national tournament level, but teams have a lot more freedom of expression within how they do those tournaments, how they do those jerseys. And I think there's pride. There can be an extra element of pride in wearing your team's jersey when it wasn't just this is what jerseys look like. When a lot of the teams will put a great deal of care into what do our jerseys look like this year? What do we want to express through our jerseys? And that can lead to a lot of really positive expressions. I know our youth club team designs their own jerseys, and a couple of years ago they had the Progress Pride flag on one of the sleeves entirely because they wanted to profess that this is who we are. And there are elements like that across the league where wearing your beliefs on your sleeve can be a very real thing in Ultimate Frisbee.
Bringing it back to the community and how Ultimate really got its hold in Madison and in our town specifically. We have to talk about the people that play Ultimate because, like you mentioned, they come from everywhere. It's a great way for folks to make friends. But I'm also curious, too, as one of the larger employers in town, does Epic also kind of play a role in the formation of this Ultimate group?
Epic definitely is kind of the billows that are pumping the fire sometimes. I've never actually seen it, but I've heard it anecdotally that when people get their jobs at Epic, they tell them to sign up for MUFA to meet people. And I think there's an element of you're going to lose people every year if you're a recreational sports league because they start families, they have other obligations. But as long as you have more people coming in, and I think a lot of our local employers bring in people who Ultimate tends to be a sport that people play who went to college, people who it has a demographic element to that is very in line with the people who are moving to Madison, either for grad school or to work for one of the big companies here. I'd be remiss if, as long as we're talking about companies, the other element is there are places like the Great Dane, which is our sponsor, and every team gets 2 free pitchers of beer from the Dane after every game.
Can't be that.
You can't beat that. But there's a community element to that means you go to the Dane after the game. And when you see 8, 9, 10 different teams at different tables, and it does something that when you think of the other rec sports who, like, the teams are sponsored by their own bar, they come, they play their game, and they fan out, and they'll maybe see each other the next week. Whereas we go play our games, and we then come together after the game. And that element of it, I think, just builds into the community of you just saw your opponent, but now they're the friends at the table drinking next to you. And it's all those components where it's more than just about the sport. It's a way you meet people. On my summer league team a few years ago, we had 2 people. They had both moved here to work for Epic. They hadn't met each other at Epic yet. They met through our team and then knew each other at work. It had gone the other way around. So I think just having this thread through the community is just, there's so many ways to meet people through us and to get to know people through us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you brought up the Great Dane as this sort of communal watering hole, but also, again, to me, it brings back that culty aspect of the Great Dane being the church of MUFA.
There's enough people wearing very similar shirts on weeknights there that it can be a little confusing if you're not a MUFA player and you walk into the wrong Dane at the wrong time.
Right. You're like, what did I just get into? And, we've been talking a lot about the community and the culture surrounding Ultimate Frisbee in Madison, but I think we need to break down, how people actually play the sport, right? So for those of us who aren't super familiar with the game, like, how does Ultimate Frisbee work, Pete?
The joke is I first have to go, it's not disc golf and it's not the one with the dogs. It's a 7-on-7 field sport where the goal is to advance the Frisbee into the end zone and catch it for a score. That's the fundamentals of the sport. And if it touches the ground, the other team gets it. So you can only pass it. And when you have the Frisbee, you can't run with it. So passing it is the only way to advance the Frisbee down the field. In most recreational leagues, ours included, it is a mixed gender sport. So there's a even number of male matching and female matching players on the field at the same time. That's the terminology we use as to not necessarily who your identity is, but who you would guard in a binary system. There are eccentricities within the game, of course. There are going to be complex rules, but that's the core of the sport, is you have to pass the disc down the field and catch it in the end zone. And if it hits the ground and the other team catches it, they go the other way. And you have 10 seconds to throw it. When you get it, that's counted because our sport is self-officiated. All the calls and counts and everything are done by the players themselves. So there's that component to it where we're a sport without refs, again, at the recreational level. And the advantage, one of the reasons the sport I feel is accessible, is that you can know those few rules and start playing.
Right. So it's not that hard, like you said, for anyone to just kind of pick up and start playing. So basically throw the disc and don't travel.
To throw the disc, don't run with it, and if it hits the ground, the other team gets it, and you try to catch it in the end zone. It's one of those I would like to think. I'm going to hate on cricket for a second for no good reason. I've watched cricket and I've never understood how it works. I don't feel like that would be the case. I think you could watch Ultimate for 10 minutes and have 80% of the knowledge you need to be able to watch the sport functionally.
I love that. So lots of ways for people to get involved, and you can start a team right here, right? Get going.
And that's one of the advantages. Our summer league is a bring your own team league. And we have a system we use we call it the Swiss system. I think it's originally taken from chess, where as the season goes along, we do the schedule 1 week at a time, and we line up teams that have done similar throughout the year. So the point isn't like just to see who wins the schedule we give you. As the season goes along, we try to give people more and more equitable matches. Because again, the point is to have a good game, is to have a good experience. So if you're a team that struggles at the beginning of the year, you're not in it for the whole summer. By the end of July, you're going to be playing other teams that had similar experiences. And that's why I would always think if you have a team that has never tried it before, it's worth trying for a summer.
Yeah, I mean, that's so real because, no one has fun when it's a blowout game, and it's more fun for folks to watch when it's competitive like that. And, building off of this too, you are the executive director of MUFA, which is responsible for the rec leagues in Madison. But what folks might not know is that our city is also home to the semi-pro ultimate team, the Madison Radicals, which formed back in 2013. There's also a women's semi-pro team in Milwaukee, the Monarchs, that formed more recently. And I'm curious to get your take on this. Like, how has the introduction of the Radicals and the Monarchs changed or influenced the greater ultimate scene in Madison?
We're one of those kind of middle niche sports, and there's always the question of legitimacy. And that's a question that the ultimate universe has pursued and asked itself for the entire time I've been playing it and even longer. And there is an element at the semi-pro level. It adds this air of legitimacy, and that opens a lot of doors, particularly when you're talking about at the youth level, because it's hard. We have a burgeoning youth scene. Most high schools have a boys team. Some high schools have a girls team. We would always like to see more on that level of development. But when you can point at this group playing at Breeze Stevens Field that is drawing crowds, the Radicals draw incredible crowds. The Monarchs, when they've played here, have drawn good crowds, both here and at Hart Park down in Milwaukee. But when you could point to those crowds and go, people watch the sport, people are interested in the sport, it's easier to sell the sport at the youth level. And that opens doors when you're trying to create more youth participation. It opens doors in terms of just people, when you go to them and say, hey, we're an ultimate Frisbee organization, they're more likely to go, oh, that sport, I saw that sport on TV at Breeze Stevens, as opposed to asking, is that the one with the dogs? So there's certainly that level of adding that element of legitimacy does open doors across the ultimate community.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge to be able to see the sport being played in the places that we live. You mentioned that the Radicals play at Breeze. Our friend Jason Joyce, the publisher over at Isthmus, is also the announcer for the Madison Radicals. We love a little journalism crossover here. And UW has both a men's and a women's team as well, right?
They have men's and women's teams. There's I think, quite a history to both of them. The men's team, they aren't called the Badgers because it is a club sport. So the men's team is called the Hodags. The women's team is called Belladonna. There are levels. They have B teams, and I think they may even have the C teams underneath. But the Hodags and Bella have both been competitive at the national level. I believe the Hodags have won a couple of national championships. Bella has certainly gotten close a few times. So, they're not just college clubs. They are nationally competitive college teams.
All right. Well, watch out for those guys. All right. So if people want to get involved and try their hand at Ultimate Frisbee, what's the first piece of advice you would give them?
The first piece of advice I'd have is try it. That's terrible, just repetitive answer of what you just said.
But it's fair. It's true. You got to do it.
You have to do it. I think what I would tell them is, like, at MUFA, we have multiple leagues. We have our summer league, which is team-based, but our spring and fall leagues are actually what we call hat leagues, where you can sign up by yourself or with one other friend, and we will make the teams to try to make nice even teams on both sides. In spring, we have coached leagues where if you prefer to learn some skills along the way, you can sign up for those. We have a lot of opportunities where even if you don't have a pre-existing group of friends you wanted to play a sport with, in spring and fall, if you're a single person looking for a team, we will find you a team and give it a shot. As I said, I don't think there's a huge learning curve to try the sport. And at minimum, you're probably going to make some friends along the way.
I love that. It really is. Ultimate Frisbee is the friends we make along the way. If people want to get involved in MUFA, where can they find you?
Our wonderfully simply named website, www.mufa.org. Again, we usually have registration information right up at the top of it. Year round, there are always opportunities, some indoor leagues in winter, plenty of outdoor leagues throughout the rest of the year. So www.mufa.org, mufa.org.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. All year round, Madison is an Ultimate Frisbee town. Thank you so much for enlightening us on this subject, Pete.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
That's Pete Schramm, Executive Director of the Madison Ultimate Frisbee Association, or MUFA. And hey, stay tuned, because coming right up is my conversation with Sarah Valencia, CEO of Journey Mental Health Center. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm executive producer Haley Sperling, in for your host Bianca Martin. Don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. Maybe one day we can make a CityCast Madison Frisbee. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this episode with someone who plays Ultimate Frisbee? We know you're out there. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until next time, take good care. Hi there, it's Haley Sperling, executive producer of CityCast Madison, and I'm here with Sarah Valencia, the CEO of Journey Mental Health Center. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we've got a lot to talk about here. So Sarah, welcome to CityCast Madison.
Thanks, Haley.
Journey Mental Health has been providing mental health and substance use recovery services in Dane County for 77 years. That's a long time. That's incredible. Can you tell me a little bit more about the work that you do and how Journey supports folks right here in Madison?
So Journey Mental Health Center serves more than 10,000 people across Dane County each year, and we provide a wide range of mental health and substance use recovery services. We have a complete full spectrum of care. One of those areas is our 24/7 crisis call center. We take around 35,000 calls annually, and that call center is really there to support folks when they need it, when they are in a crisis. We also have school-based mental health services that reach about 4,000 students a year, and we really help young people get the care that they need early. And for individuals who are living with severe and persistent mental illness, we offer an intensive community-based service program where we support over 300 folks in maintaining their stability and their independence. In addition, we provide outpatient mental health services for children, adults, and families. So no matter where folks are in their journey, we're here to support them.
Wow, you folks are really doing it all. And I know that you just started your role as CEO back in January. How has that been going? And why did you end up pursuing this role here at Journey?
It's been wonderful so far. I've really enjoyed getting to know the services that we offer, connecting with the staff and the partners and the community members that we work with who make this work possible. Professionally, I've worked across the mental health system, from community health systems to hospital systems to the state level work. And so I've seen firsthand where the strengths and gaps are in care professionally. And then also on a personal level, I've navigated the mental health system with a loved one here in Dane County, which gave me a deeper understanding of just how challenging it can be to access support. And those are the perspectives that really drive my commitment to making care more accessible and compassionate and effective here in Dane County.
That is such a great mission. And, as I mentioned at the top, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Journey is launching a major campaign to reduce stigma around mental illness and raise funds for all the work that you guys are doing. Reducing stigma, that's a huge, huge thing for me. Can you tell me a little bit more about some of the events that you have lined up for this month?
Yes, we also are so excited about everything we have planned for May. We're going to kick things off on May 6th at 6:00 p.m. with Drag Bingo featuring Kendra Banks at the Burr Oak. It's going to be super fun, high energy evening with bingo, drinks, prizes, and tons of laughs. Then on Friday, May 15th, we're hosting a youth mental health luncheon and panel. And it's a chance for our community to better understand what young people are facing right now, from mental health to substance use. And we're seeing this through our work with students. The panel is going to include Dr. Jasmine Zapata, a pediatrician and a public health official, Kate Duffy of Motherhood for Good, Tyrone Creech with G-Safe, and Dr. Joe Gothard with MMSD. And then later in the month, on Tuesday, May 19th, we're honored to host Olympic medalist Molly Seidel for a fireside chat that's going to be moderated by Kristen Bry of Ascos, Wisconsin. Molly will share her personal story with mental health and eating disorders and recovery, and it's going to be a really powerful conversation. And then finally, we don't want to forget to invite folks to stop at the Ahara House, which is downtown, for the Mimoka Gallery Night on Friday, May 8th. And to purchase tickets, you can go on to our website, and there's a link at the top of the homepage.
Wow, that is a lot you guys have going on there. And you mentioned a few ways too, but I know that our listeners care deeply about mental health and supporting this community. How can folks get involved with Journey? How can they help what you guys are doing?
There's so many ways to get involved. Attending one of our events in May that I just listed off is a great place to start. They're not only going to be fun, but they will directly support our programs. You can also make a donation through our website, which helps us continue to provide these critical services across our community. And finally, we really encourage folks to stay connected with us. Follow us on social media or subscribe to our newsletter and help us spread the word. Raising awareness is a really powerful way to reduce stigma and ensure people know that help is available.
That is so huge, and exactly why we're having this conversation today. Sarah, thank you so much for being here and for the incredible work that Journey does every single day. Listeners, head to journeymhc.org/MHAM for tickets to all 3 May events, and check out journeymhc.org/donate if you'd like to contribute. We'll have those links in our show notes as well. Thanks for listening.